I know what happened here. You had a bunch of robo-signers sitting around a long table, stamps, notary stamps, pens, and practicing each other's signatures. They had no knowledge of the documents they were purportedly signing. We're talking about major financial transactions here that are being forged. It's signed by a Tawana Thomas, allegedly assistant vice president.
And this is where the issue of robo-signing comes in, right?
Yes.
Explain that.
Well, if you look at the signature, it's obviously a computer-imposed backward signature. And what we did was we found other signatures of Ms. Thomas which are comically different from these signatures.
How severe is this issue? How long has it been going on?
It's been going on for years, upwards of 6, 7, 8 years. We've been fighting this issue since probably 2007 when we became aware of the robo-signing and the fraudulent documents.
Perhaps the paperwork was mishandled, but does it come down to the fact that people are losing their homes that shouldn't?
Absolutely. You have people being put out of their homes improperly in foreclosures. They can't afford attorneys. After the housing bust, though, you had so many people in foreclosure that attorneys like myself, consumer bankruptcy attorneys, started to look at these documents and started to see these patterns of abuse. When the mortgage boom and the housing boom was happening, the banks took shortcuts. They were overwhelmed, perhaps. They wanted to save money, just like the beginning of MERS, Mortgage Electronic Registration System, was to save money. Here, in the securitized trust, instead of doing the steps they were supposed to do, they bypassed it. And now you can't recreate things that weren't done.
Does this delay the inevitable for the housing market? I mean, does this really turn the corner for us, that people will get back in their homes and more loans will be modified?
This is not a solution. This is bringing the problem to the forefront. And it's been pushed off for years. We've been screaming about this for years now. And the courts, one by one case at a time, has been looking at it, but they couldn't believe, as a judge, the massive fraud by the banks. They couldn't wrap their hands around it.
What would you say to Ally, J.P. Morgan, Bank of America, that have now put a major freeze on their foreclosures? Is that the right step?
I think you cannot foreclose on a home unless you have the legal documentation to do so. We're still a nation of laws. We have rules of evidence in court. You can't continue to go in and perjure yourself every time you enter a courtroom. People need to be walked out in handcuffs.
David, have you been able to save people's homes as a result of this?
Oh, absolutely. We have a number of instances where we wanted to modify a client's mortgage so they could stay in it in bankruptcy setting. The banks refused. Then we take a real close look at their paperwork and object to their claim, and on many instances they came back with very favorable modifications.
This looks like a technicality, like a major technical error on behalf of the banks and mortgage servicers. The other argument would be these people didn't pay their mortgage and they shouldn't be in their home.
We've never held a position that the homeowner should have a house for free. That's never been our position and never really will be. But there's been a massive fraud involved here. All we're asking is that the basic rules of evidence, the basic laws that our country are founded on be followed, that you have standing in the court. You have a right to bring an action against my client. You have to prove you have the right.
Could it result in people that really should be kicked out of their home, staying in their home because of a technicality?
That could happen, but it is not our fault or the client's fault that the banks and their agents refuse to follow their own rules that they set in place.